All right, day 2 working on the heater. Just got back from intramural kickball. We're gonna run the wires up for the control knobs. We'll show you how we're gonna get that done with the ProMaster van.
Okay, so first, as you saw previously, we ran the 2 wires for each control unit out underneath this plastic, and up in here we took this little plastic shroud off. There's a couple screws on either side, and on the bottom you got to remove those, pop that out, and then the next thing you have to do is remove the shroud that houses the seat belt, which not super complicated, but might be a little tricky if you've never done it before. But you'll have to loosen this bolt for the top, you'll have to loosen this bolt that's at the bottom of the seat belt, which you have to pop off a little plastic piece, and it should just be, I think, a 17 millimeter. That's what I found to fit. So we're gonna loosen those 2 up and then get this plastic shroud off. And once you remove that one, this just slides right off. Relieve some of the pressure on this lower one. And there we go. And now I'm just gonna kind of let this sit off to the side. But now there's no pressure on this, but I can actually pop this shield off to be able to access behind it. Oh, and there actually is 1 screw right down here as well. Just keep in mind that I had to remove right here as well. But I think that should be all that's holding this on. And there's just some tabs that you gotta be careful to pop off. But now we have access to behind this. Our goal is to run them up and have them at the top of the ProMaster, because we're gonna build a little boxed in control unit for those knobs to be housed in.
Okay, so Ricky got these 2 wires ran all the way up this panel and up here. As you can see, this one's a little bit on the shorter side, but luckily that goes to the multi-controller, which comes with an extra bit of wire. This one to the elevation knob does not, but luckily look how much wire there is left. One thing to note, back here we did use some zip ties to just keep the wires out of the way of this panel and the seat belt. So, but it looks good. Okay, so super quick, we're backtracking a little bit right here. Our main run to the battery bank, the wire that the WEBASTO comes with does not run all the way to our battery bank in the garage. We have the ProMaster 159 wheelbase, non-extended. So we have some 12 gauge wire. We don't have 14 on hand, which is what the heater comes with. We have 12, so we have 12 run up to the heater, and we are going to connect that 14 gauge to that 12 gauge to the battery, which is safe. We talked to somebody who works on campers for a living, and they said that's perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. It will work because you're going from bigger size to a smaller size. Vice versa would not be as okay. So we're going to go for it. So we're going to cut, splice in, and then also we're not going to use this inline fuse because this is ran to our fuse block back in the back of house. So that is where our fuse is going to be stored.
We spliced our wire and got it extended to our 12 gauge that we had on hand, running all the way back to the battery bank. It just runs through this panel, under the driver's seat, under this panel, into the heater. Next, we have to go back under the van and hook up our air filter.
Okay, so back under the van, we have our air intake hose and our exhaust hose. We have our air filter and our clamp. Clamp over, put the air filter on, bring the clamp back down. Okay, now that we have this puppy clamped on here, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so originally we had the air intake coming down where this exhaust pipe is coming down, but was finding a difficult place to mount the air filter, so we kind of routed it to the other side of this heat shield where we have our water pump, or the fuel pump, sorry, and found a nice little spot to put it right here. And again, having a hard time finding a place to mount this little plastic thing, so I think we're gonna create a little mount of our own with some zip ties. And I think I just kind of connected two, and I think I'm just gonna zip tie around this and around this metal bracket, and just zip tie it on there instead of using that little bracket. That bad boy's on there good. That might be more sturdy than that clamp, honestly. So should be good to go under the van, minus the muffler we're gonna put on here. So next step, we're just gonna install this duct. We don't have a face for the vent just yet, But we're gonna attach this so when the time comes we have it, and then we can also test it once we get the wires and fuse all plugged in. But I just kind of have this shaped in the direction I need it. We're under the passenger seat where we have the WEBASTO installed. Time to put the duct on. We're gonna grab our large clamp that we got. I kind of had this shaped in the direction I needed it to for it to come out of here. Now we're gonna get this clamped down.
So we got the clamp clamped onto the air duct, probably gonna clip the excess off, and that duct is just running over to face the inside of the van. Before we get the exhaust muffler installed, we're just gonna do a quick test run to make sure the unit works like it should. So Ricky is putting a fuse in the fuse block right now so we can get this tested. Okay, Ricky just got the fuse in and our multimeter lit up, so we have power now to make sure the heater actually blows air.
Okay, so we're in heating, and we're gonna just try and set it to an actual heating temperature to see if we can get it primed and
let's see if it works.
And see if it works. Not sure if you can hear that. Fuel pump is clicking right now. It's trying to prime itself to get fuel through the line.
I think it just
I think that
kicked
means
off.
it's not getting fuel. What?
Really?
Yeah. Try it again, maybe?
Okay. Okay, the error message came on again when I tried to. It says it's not getting fuel.
I think that's what the HO2 means. Yeah, the unit's not getting fuel.
Okay, you can also reset the error message. Okay, reset the multimeter, try it again. We're smelling gas. Is it leaking?
No, I just smelled the exhaust. It smells like fumes are coming out of it. Did it come off? Did it?
No error message.
There's literally fumes coming out of this.
That must be what I'm smelling. Okay, it's still clicking for fuel. The air stopped running. Smell coming from the exhaust.
You can hear it.
No error message yet.
I can hear the exhaust.
We
Hear
can
it?
hear the exhaust.
And there's fumes coming out of it. Oh wow, whoa.
What was that?
There was a lot of smoke. It stopped, but it like poof, like a smoke out. We need to figure out if that's normal.
Should we turn it off? It's heating. Okay, it's blowing heat now. I think I just turned it off though, so I think it's about to kick off. But
yeah, but it like had a little bit of fumes coming out, and then like I saw like white, and then it stopped.
so maybe that's normal.
Maybe it was just like burning, and
Yeah.
it, like let out that initial ignition.
Yeah, maybe it's like something in the air filter or something, like, or the fuel filter. Well, it's definitely working. I think it was just getting kick-started and whatnot. Gave our heater a test run. It does work. We're gonna turn it off and get our silencer muffler installed. Okay, we are making our way back under the van to install the exhaust muffler. It is going to go like this, and we did prep it by adding these L brackets. We used 2 L brackets, one running up and that way, and the other running on top of it up and that way. And we'll show you exactly why we did that once we show you the placement. Any hardware that you get, make sure you do not use zinc because it will rust almost immediately. So these are stainless steel.
Okay, so like she said, we had to kind of figure out a specific way to make this because this muffler, for one, needs to be this orientation. You can't have it like this. The shape of this is meant for any sort of like fluid or liquid or anything to be able to drip out of there. So again, we also need this to be pointing out towards the outside of the van. So this is what we figured out. We're mounting it on this piece of the van right here. So perfect right there. So we can use a self-drilling screw and washer and whatnot right in here. We're gonna cut this hose, attach it here, and then the other end of the hose will come out this way and then out and hopefully a little bit downwards. Over here is hopefully we have enough exhaust pipe to do so. We are just going to put the second piece that we chopped off on currently, just so that way it's
Ready
easier
to
to
go.
do it out here, not under the van. But just a heads up on these clamps. We're using these slip clamps that, you know, tighten and loosen. I don't necessarily think you're supposed to use these on this part of it. Like there should be like the metal U clamps, but for some reason everywhere we looked we couldn't find any, so we're gonna have to order some online. But I think these will do good. Okay, so now we're back under the van. First off, I did pre-drill a little bit right here because it's gonna be a pain in the butt to get the screw gun here. So I pre-drilled that for the bracket to go on. So we're also now gonna get the second clamp going. We have this all in one piece. The last step is literally going to be to get this bracket bolted up to the frame, and I think I need both my hands for this, and I might need Darian, so we will convene back when it's done.
All right, we got the exhaust muffler hooked up. One thing we did forget to mention earlier is that this is an optional piece. I think we mentioned that when we go over the parts, but this exhaust hose needs to go this length to be safe and so that the exhaust doesn't get sucked back up into the van. If you are not using the exhaust muffler, you're probably going to have to buy an extension of exhaust hose to make sure you have a safe amount if you are installing it underneath the seat. Quick tip with the ProMaster van, there are these holes. As you can see, we have rivet nutted them, so when we frame this out, we're just going to put a piece of wood over here and plus nut those in, and then we're going to have a hole saw spot where the vent will be placed.
So next step is to get our altitude set for our heater. You know, if you want to go up in the mountains or anywhere obviously of higher elevation, getting the altitude set on your WEBASTO is a must. So we're going to go over that real quick. To start, if you have your multimeter, you want to disconnect it first, because calibrating our altitude, this needs to be disconnected. Next, we're going to get down to our unit and find our calibration plug and continue from there. You will have a plug on your heater. It is typically right on the wiring harness that comes outside of the unit. The wiring harness is tucked away, so it's kind of hard to pull out anymore, but it should be enough for us. If you look at that, it should have two different color wires. On ours, it is a brown and a green wire, and the brown wire is our negative wire. So we want to connect this brown negative wire to some sort of chassis ground or the ground. We're actually going to use the ground in our electrical system, our negative bus bar. But connecting just via negative and ground, you can get the altitude set all by itself. So what I did is connected this little U-shaped spade, because the tip of that will fit in the connector for the negative. So that's what we're gonna slide in there. So once we get this connected in here to our negative side, so the negative side again is the brown wire. That's this right outlook. Not sure if you can see it, but it's this right plug. So we're gonna get this connector into our right. Okay, and as you can see, it's inside of the metal connector, that right side. So what I'm gonna do here, instead of just putting a fitting on there, I'm just gonna wrap the negative wire around one of these negative bolts, tape it on there so that way it has a good connection, and then I can just easily remove it when we're done. Now we are back up top with our rheostat. We're gonna turn this up to 12 o'clock as if it were a watch. I can hear the heater running, that's a good sign. It should turn on the heater. Now that we are at the 12 o'clock mark, we're gonna wait a few minutes for this to start flashing, and we'll go from there. Now that we're blinking, we want to set it to about the 9 o'clock position on here. And now that we are at 9 o'clock, we're gonna wait a few more minutes and go from there.
Okay, now that the heater has been running for about 3 minutes, we're going to disconnect this wire that we have on the ground. Disconnected. Now we just let the heater run for about 10 more minutes, just so it reaches a high temperature and stays clean. Then we can turn it off and our high altitude adjustment is over. Nice and easy. Those were all the steps, hopefully clear and concise, to the point of how to install the WEBASTO heater underneath the passenger seat of the ProMaster van. As you can see, it's dark out again. However, we did get a late start both days working on this project. If you did start early, I do think you could get this done in a full day, especially if you make sure you have all the parts beforehand. We made 3 stops to Home Depot for hardware today. So just keep that in mind. Make sure everything we have you have too. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one.
Said I gotta run away, get away now. Too many games and they all trying to play out. Too many people and they all start to change now. Let me take a bet, they gon' know my name now. Yeah, we came a long way, but it's one way. Got a long way to go like it's Monday. Someday gotta be in LA. No, I gotta make it work out like chess day.